Good afternoon and welcome to Valley Views. I'm your host, Glenn Edison. I'm certainly glad to have you. And as always, I want to thank BTC Fiber for hosting our program. And you can see these interviews on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as your cable channel 18. And today we have with us Zach Olendorf. He's a tax assessor
Yes.
for Bledsoe County. And Zach, first of all, it's good to have you. Thank you for being with us.
Here. Thank you. Appreciate you asking.
This is a second of interviews we're trying to do with the Bledsoe County office holders, and we hope this will be informative to you. I know a lot of you deal with them on a regular basis, but this way we can give you a little background information. You might find some things out about the office. So first of all, Zach, let me ask you, give a little background information on yourself for maybe for the new people in the community that don't know you.
Okay, sure. Yeah, like I said, my name's Zach Olendorf. I've lived in Bledsoe County all my life. My dad runs a heating and air business here that I used to work for him after high school and college. And my mother, named Phyllis, my dad's named Randy, retired from BTC Fiber some years back. So I've always lived right here, went to school here, and went to college, out of town, of course, but have always worked here and lived here, and, it's not a lot of background, go to church here and all those things, but my kids are in school here, so try to be as community driven as possible here.
Now, how many years have you been tax assessor?
Yeah, this is 8 years. I just started what will be the 9th year, third term, September, the first of this month. So, been here 8 years, and some days feels like 20, some days feels like a month. But yeah, it's been a great job. I feel very fortunate to have it. So.
Well, I know a lot of people probably, when they come to pay their taxes, they don't always enjoy seeing you when they write those checks.
No, me and the lady that work across the hall, if you see our name on a piece of mail, usually happiness is not the emotion that you feel. But it's a big part of how our county goes forward.
Right. It's well, actually, the taxes is how the county operates.
Yeah.
And you don't set the tax rate; the county commission does.
Right. They set the tax rate, and fortunately, this year there's no increase. And most of our acreage rates, whether it be greenbelt, market value, and then our square footage rates, residential, commercial, or what we call outbuildings, which is barns and those things, they're really derived by the state every 5 years in a reappraisal. So I don't really set any rates as much as manage what is on your tax bill and try to keep that accurate. Yeah.
So basically, you're just sitting there when they say, well, this is going to be the percentage, and you figure out the percentages and send out the tax.
Yeah, well, we use a computer system that they populate, the Division of Property Assessments, which is under the comptroller. They keep that up to date, and we don't have to handle that. And I don't think a local person should be in charge of that. I think that is better handled by a team of people at the state level. And so we're the middleman really between the taxpayer and, the state government.
I bet you get to hear it when the state comes in and appraises things a little higher than what they've been used to. I bet you get to hear that a lot.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'd say the commissioners and the county mayor and the trustee as well. But 2 years ago we had a reappraisal in 22, and because of the market, the way that it has ascended in price, the tax appraisals did as well. Now, what happens is when those tax appraisals go up, you get a certified tax rate by the state, which will balance the overall budget. So the county will not make any more money. but where the money's coming from can shift. So my taxes could have actually went down, but yours could have went up.
Uh-huh.
But the overall money intake that the county gets is equal.
Equal.
And so when you see those big shifts, you do get, that's our job. We get some people who are not pleased with
Yeah.
with that, and more often than not, there's not anything wrong. It's just the way that reappraisal repriced the county.
Right, because I know over the years, when I know how much originally I paid for my property, and then I look at some of those tax bills,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, it really.
Yeah, well,
But that's just life, over the years.
a lot of times, if you have maybe you have a family farm that's been passed down generations. Originally it was probably bought for a very small amount per acre.
Yeah.
But if you were to sell it today, it is worth
Yeah.
so much more than it was worth
Uh-huh.
50, 100 years ago. And the taxes they're a representation of today's market value.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because you wouldn't want to sell it the same price. I wouldn't want to sell my house the same price I bought it. And I wouldn't make any money.
You would lose.
Yeah.
You would lose.
And
sure.
I've put a lot into it, upkeep and, just making things better,
Yeah, yeah.
And most people do when they have the opportunity, so that they wouldn't want to sell it for what they bought it for.
No. A house that was worth 100,000 10 years ago is easily probably worth double now, if not triple.
Right.
And the tax, like I say, the tax value it's the reappraisal's job to make the tax value reflect today's market values instead of 25 years ago when you bought it.
Right, because I know I've heard over the years many times people keep referring back. They want to go back to when they were small, when it was a small community. Well, that's good and fine and dandy, but if you go back then, you think about what you didn't have as opposed to what you have now.
Yeah. The problem, it's not a problem, but the concern of taxpayers in Bledsoe, and I hear this a lot, is because we are limited on commercial businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some new ones, and we very much appreciate those. But compared to bigger cities,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the income that it takes to make our county run and school system run comes from just everybody that owns a house and a piece of land. That burden falls on them.
Right.
Fortunately, our taxes are pretty cheap compared to surrounding areas not very far away.
Well, I've noticed that because I try to keep up with that, and like Bledsoe and Sequatchie, that if you looked at the tax rate compared to some other counties about the same size, we're actually doing pretty good.
Yeah, it could be a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
It could be significantly worse. So I try to tell people that, and I think sometimes maybe it seems like I'm trying to get out of hot water, but that is the truth. Is probably will always have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Whether it be sales tax, property tax, or whatever, tax on your wages. It's part of life, but it could be a lot worse than it is here. So
Right, and a lot of people sometimes don't quite understand that when the taxes, it goes towards your county highway department, it goes to the schools, it's spread out. It's not just comes in one pot and then you write a check as you need it.
yeah, if you look at the back of the tax notices that are about to go out, it will break down out of the 2.063% where each portion of that goes.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously the general fund. I don't want to not try to name all of them, I'll mess it up, but the schools, the highway department, it doesn't go to that. That comes because that's a commonly asked thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing that comes from the gas tax. But yeah, that's what, and it goes to
Sanitation.
Yeah, there's about 5 or 6 places it breaks down and goes in different increments.
Right, so it's not just all comes here and then you just write a check for whatever bill comes in. It's divided
No,
out.
it's divided up immediately. When the trustee takes it in, it goes into, the portions divvy out as it should. And, and like I say, in small counties with, a limited population and businesses, property tax, along with what sales tax we take in, is what keeps it going.
Right, and then of course here in Bledsoe County as well as Sequatchie and other counties in the valley, you have a lot of that green belt. There's a lot of property out there. It's just forest land.
Yeah, I forget how I looked it up probably within the last year. How many parcels we have that are on green belt. When green belt is a good program. And for those that may not know, it's when you have over 15 acres of land. That's all contingent.
Mm-hmm.
You can apply for greenbelt, which gives you a use value instead of market value.
Right.
And it usually cuts your land value in half or better.
Uh-huh.
But when that happens, that dollar amount on your tax bill goes down. So what our county takes in is less. Right. So that's a benefit for the taxpayers.
Right, and it's a legal thing. I know some people fuss about that sometimes, but it's a legal thing that everybody can take advantage of if that applies to them.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the acreage, you come in our office, or you could print one offline, and you fill out a form, and we sign off on it. And you have to get it notarized, and then you record it with the Register of Deeds, and it has a $12 recording fee. It's perpetual as long as you don't increase the size of that parcel, in which case you would need to reapply to represent the new land. But yeah, I mean, if you buy a piece today and you apply for greenbelt and you never add land to it, never change it, that one-time recording fee will stand for it. So, $12 often saves hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. And that's a good thing for people that it was meant for the taxpayer. It's meant for the individuals who own the land.
Yeah, and I think it come about in 1974 or 6, and the whole intent behind it were to help people who are using their land to make a living.
Uh-huh.
They use their land to produce income. And, we don't police that very hard anymore because of just limited staff, to be honest, and there is a lot of land out there that is not income producing that's on greenbelt.
Mm-hmm. And
in the early days, that probably wouldn't have been the case, but now there is. But it's 100% beneficial for the taxpayer.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know sometimes people buy property and their property goes up one of the mountains. Well, you can't.
You can't use it.
Can't use it, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's part of the benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, that's interesting. Now. On I mentioned to you earlier before we started about senior citizens, some of the discounts, and you said that goes through the assessor.
That goes through the trustee's
office.
Bledsoe County has 2 programs, one being tax freeze and one being tax relief. And I'm not sure exactly what the qualifications are for those. I know that there is a age requirement,
mm-hmm.
a household income requirement, and there's probably a few more things that I would mess up. But what tax freeze does, I'm involved with it some. So what tax freeze does is on the year that you apply, let's
mm-hmm.
say your tax bill is $500, and you apply that year and you meet the criteria. What happens is we freeze that amount.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you get deeded adjoining land or you build a new structure, obviously your taxes will still go up.
Right.
But if you leave it as it is, and maybe there's a tax increase, or the appraisals increase during the reappraisal period, and your tax bill, say it would have went to $600, because of different circumstances, it's frozen at $500.
Oh, okay.
And so it doesn't keep you from paying taxes, but it can freeze it. Most of the time people assume that taxes will always go up.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fair assumption. So it freezes it at a spot, and as factors would cause it to increase, it's frozen there. Now, if there is a circumstance where maybe an old barn or a piece of land is sold off or whatever, we will adjust it down and freeze it at the new place.
Oh, okay.
So it can be adjusted down, but in theory, it won't ever go up.
Right.
That's tax freeze. Tax relief, I don't handle any of it, but I know there is an incentive that is given back to the taxpayer. I'm not sure how that percentage goes or if it's a flat fee, so I won't speak on that much, but I do know that to qualify for either one of them is very similar.
Okay.
And then there is, I won't say too much about this because I don't handle it, but I know there is if you're a 100% disabled veteran, I know that there is a significant tax break that can be applied for as well through the trustee's office.
So people just really, if they're interested, they just need to go and find out.
Yeah. I mean, Tracy Cagle is our trustee right now, and she can answer those questions, you know. And we send, it's a pretty commonly asked thing. I was asked this morning about it already.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, and we send them to her to get that information and to see how to apply, when to apply. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of those senior citizens, their income goes down because they're no longer working a full-time job.
Right.
So their income goes quite a bit down from what it used to be.
Yeah, I think the household income is somewhere in the $31,000 to $32,000 range. You know, so when people stop their 9 to 5 and get on a fixed income of Social Security or whatever, a lot of times they may fall in that. So, yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would qualify if they knew about it. And
yeah,
so
we have last I worked the tax freeze back in the end of the summer. There was about 160 parcels on tax freeze.
Well,
and it seems like probably 3 years ago there was well over 200. But I think that people pass away, and then the new owner of that parcel doesn't qualify.
Right.
You know, and so we've seen that number decrease. But
so you're not out to get people. You're actually trying to help people in the county. And when taxes go up, they shouldn't come into you and be mad. You're just the one that sends out the bill.
Yeah, we cost you the money, but we are this, like I say, really we're the middleman that we handle your tax card, the acreage, the ownership changes. Did you buy more land, split land? What is on the property? What kind of dwelling, what kind of buildings, and we try to categorize them as accurately as possible. But in terms of the real appraisal, you know, we're not sitting there going, well, that house is worth $300,000.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We measure it. We try to take down every factor we can. We never go inside. So, you know, there has to be a little room for, you know, it's not perfect.
Right.
We're not going in the house, and we try to be as absolutely fair as possible.
Right.
Because, you know, the outside of a house can be vastly different than the inside.
Right. Yes.
And so, you know, to say that we hit that perfect, that would be not true. But we always try to err on the side of the taxpayer. If we make a mistake, we make it in their favor.
Right.
We want to do that and not overcharge people. And we take those measurements for a dwelling and we plug them into our system. We sketch it into a program. It's kind of an AutoCAD software, and we put what kind of siding, what kind of heating and air does it have, how many stories, obviously. And it generates a value.
Right.
And sometimes that value is maybe different than we feel it should have been, but we have to trust that software.
Right.
Because if it's fair for you, it's fair for me.
Right.
So we have to trust it.
And you don't use a different software just for some of your friends. It's all the same.
No, absolutely not. If anything, I would probably make my own taxes higher than everybody, than they should be. Just that way people would never assume that I would,
right,
make an exception for friends or family, because put you in hot water pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, and, like you said, you're using the software, and it doesn't know who John Doe or John Smith is. It just plugs in the numbers.
It's non-biased. It's strictly calculation driven. And a house that is 3,000 square feet with a garage is just naturally going to cost more money than one that's half that size.
Right.
And the two things that really drive value when we're measuring a house is the square footage and how new is it. Those are your two big ones. Now there's a few more things that add a little here and there.
Right.
And there's a couple places where we have to use our own opinion a little, and it doesn't change a lot. Because sometimes homes are, they're just nicer, more fancy, or, more
right,
intricate than others, and we try to get that accurate.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So, really, your office is about as fair as it can be, because it's really a non-bias. You're just using computer-driven material, and and then whatever the tax rate is for the county, whatever they.
Yeah, it's kind of black and white, and at first when I started, I thought this was a bad thing, but we don't. So I'll say this in two parts. We don't handle any money in our office. We don't take any payment. So our audit process is a little different than those other offices that have cash drawer.
Right.
And so when we go into a map and parcel and make a change, the Division of Property Assessment can see that change reflected almost instantly. And they don't audit every change we make, but they do check our work. They check our work on, new construction that we put on the deeds that we work, ownership changes. And then we have a field appraiser that's out, reviewing. Yeah. And they go pick a random map that he's done and audit his work. They go say, well, he's already done this map and turned in this progress report, so let's go see if we seen the same thing he did. Yeah. And oftentimes there's just a few subtle things that they see that maybe we look at differently. Not necessarily even a value change as much as we would call this XYZ instead of ABC in the program. But we're under constant auditing, which is really good, because if you're meeting that expectation, then you're doing a pretty good job, Right. And so I feel confident, we're not perfect. We make mistakes, but we can fix them. And through being audited and trying to be aware of what you're doing, I feel pretty confident that we're on task.
And just about every government office countywide is usually audited anyway by the state at some point in time, aren't they?
Yes. Most of the other offices are audited. There's an auditor that will come here and stay for a duration of time and go through how they, I don't want to say exactly what, but because we don't take money, we don't have that same process. Right. We have a different process, and when we push commit on our computer program that we work in, it goes directly to a server, a state server. It's a direct line. And so it's a secure line from Bledsoe to a state server, wherever it is. I assume probably Nashville,
Yeah.
but I don't know that. And they have access to that.
And they could, actually, they could constantly monitor you and randomly pick properties and then compare it to what you've done. I guess they could on the
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if I went in, when we finished this right here, I went and just took somebody's tax record and just deleted it.
Yeah.
Just wrongfully deleted it. If I did that in a very short amount of time, probably by the end of the week, it would red flag. They would want to know why, and if they would fix it back themselves. You know, that would never stand.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's good.
Yeah.
That ensures that, you know, a high level of honesty and fairness is going to be instituted. And so I think that's good.
Yeah, and what I pick up when I come to your office and when I've been here before when you weren't here is your two employees that you have. You might want to mention them.
Yeah.
Because I don't know the names, but they seem really nice. They're outgoing, and you know, they want to do things right.
Yeah. So there's three of us in there. Myself and have the position is called a deputy assessor. And the lady that has that job, her name's Heather Robertson. She's been with us since March 1st. We had a lady named Candy Stoltz that worked for over 30 years, and she retired. And so Heather took her spot, and the field appraiser's name is Jeff LaQuire. And so to a degree, what we try to do is want to cross-train a little, because at times, whether it be lunch or if you have doctor's appointments or whatever it may be, you may be in there by yourself.
Yeah.
So, of course, I should know everything. I don't, but I should, you know.
Yeah.
But we try to teach each other what we do. That way, if it's a question that's really geared for the field appraiser, we know we can answer it, or vice versa. And so our daily work is kind of based like this. As deeds are recorded in the registrar's office, we get those. Are able to do it on the computer now and not have to go get a hard copy, but we could. We get those and we look at what that deed is doing. You know, is it splitting property? It's always transfer or sale.
Right.
And then we adjust the tax records. And one thing that I feel like it'd be good to say is when people buy and sell land, it usually doesn't take effect on the taxes until the next tax year.
Right.
So however that land is on January the 1st is how that bill later in the fall will reflect.
Oh, okay.
But maybe they have sold it or added or whatever, subdivided it. It doesn't take effect till the next tax year. That's why when you go to closings, they prorate taxes. That's what that is. But Heather and myself work those deeds. We reconfigure the information in the computer to match that. And then Jeff's job is to, you know, be finding the new construction. And we all do a little of each of it. But, you know, every 5 years we have to review the whole county. And that's his job. And so he goes out and he does that.
Yeah. That keeps him busy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's you know, and a lot of times it's not foolproof because we may review this map this month and then we won't review that map again for several years.
Yeah.
Because we have to work top to bottom.
Right.
There may be a house pop up there after we've reviewed it. You know, it's not foolproof because we don't have building codes and building permits. So we're just looking, you know. That's how that breaks down. But if any of the three of us are not here, any of the three of us can answer a question. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it is.
And the lady that retired was, just a wealth of knowledge,
Yeah,
after
yeah.
all those years, and she had worked here through all of that change.
Uh-huh.
But Heather has come on and took that on, and it's a lot to learn, but it's doable. It's doable.
Well, that's good. And excuse me. So really, the citizens here in Bledsoe County can feel more at ease when they come to your office, when they, because it's more of an informative thing. You're helping them, because they may not know all these regulations that you have to know.
Yeah, and there's not, until you need to know it, it's something you don't think about.
Right.
When I first started, I knew roughly what the office did. I had my opinion of what it did, and I learned pretty quickly that it was that and more. And I'm sure every office in here is that way. The surface part that you see is a small part of it most of the time,
Right.
with any profession. And so we do mapping, which is we still map on paper.
Uh-huh.
And we scan it and we send it to Nashville.
Oh, okay.
So when people divide land, we take that legal description and we regenerate the survey that paragraph makes, and we adjust our map accordingly. And sometimes that is interesting.
Yeah, I bet it is.
Depending on how well the legal descriptions in that area match up. But there's just different things that I didn't know all that I would be responsible for, and some of it is different and the same as I thought it would be. And in 8 years I've been fortunate enough to learn from people, and then get to a place where I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
The last few years. So,
Well, has anybody ever come in and asked you to play them a song?
well, time or two, and people have come in with a guitar and played me songs, which is far more interesting, I'll say.
Yeah.
I play a lot of music on the weekends and at church where I go, and that's a big part of my life outside of work. And we've crossed paths at those things several times, but I hope that I'm always able to do that.
Yeah, and for everybody's listening, he's pretty good. He really is.
Well, I appreciate that.
He's a good singer, and he can really pick a guitar. He really can.
I feel like I have 2 young children, 6 and fixing to be 3, and I want them to play sports, and I want them to do what they want to do, But I played sports growing up. Wasn't great, but I always tried to play, and at some point, for most people, that stops. And I feel like with a musical instrument, that you can take that with you a long time.
You sure can.
So, my dad, me and him will sit together and play.
Yeah.
Still, and have buddies that I play music with that, for no other reason than just a hobby.
Right, and you played with several local bands and just a whole host of people.
Yeah, the good friend of mine is Cody McCarver, who's been on this channel several times. I've been playing with him, traveling around for 10 or 11 years, and become a great friend of mine, actually, far outside of music. And most of those people that play in his band are from Pikeville, Dunlap, or Saudi Daisy, which is all local to us.
Right.
And then we have played, that same band, including Cody, have played for John Snyder off and on for 5 or 6 years, and been interesting.
Yeah.
It's been good, and the great thing is it doesn't take me away from this,
Right.
and I can still do that.
Yeah.
And that's been, we were supposed to play this weekend, and the weather didn't permit.
Yeah.
Because of all the storm damage. So, yeah.
And weather permitting, you get to play this weekend at Oktoberfest.
Yeah, that's correct. There's one going on in Pikeville, and then down the road in Dunlap, there's one going on as well. So, I've played a lot of music in the valley, and hope to continue to. So,
I'm sure you will, as long as God permits you to.
that's right. That's right.
Was there anything we've not talked about you want to bring up?
We've hit most of the high places. I guess for people that don't know, the flow of business in here is the Register of Deeds takes in documents, and we adjust the tax records to match those.
Uh-huh.
And when that happens, it generates a tax bill that's collected by the trustee. And then, if you don't pay your taxes in a timely manner, those taxes make their way down to the clerk and master.
Uh-huh.
So those 4 offices really is kind of a flow.
That was one thing I was going to ask you about, and I forgot earlier. Say someone come in, say they had maybe they got sick and had to have surgery, or got laid off, and various sundry reasons for not paying their taxes. Do you work with them when they say, look, hey, this is a deal situation? Can you work with them, or is there...
From an appraisal standpoint that I handle, there's not really a way to adjust it for those reasons. From the trustee standpoint, I think you can pay your taxes in 25% increments.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to come in with that full amount. It doesn't necessarily lower the total, but it
Right.
gives you an opportunity to pay over a period of time, and that, I guess, that can be helpful. And there may be other ways that she can do that.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. From an appraisal standpoint, though, it kind of is a concrete,
Uh-huh.
And after, after February the 28th, taxes, there's a percentage added. It's a
Right.
1.5% every month.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're behind or if you're in hard times, it takes several months before it really starts getting
Right.
terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do that quarterly, or when I say quarterly, if you do that 25%
Mm-hmm.
payment, that's a way to help. And that's just off the top of my head.
Uh-huh. Well, good. Well, listen, I really do appreciate your time today, because it's been
Yeah.
informative to me, some of the things you do, because some things I didn't know, and so I'm sure it's been informative for everyone else.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate you being with us today.
Well, I enjoyed it. Thank you for asking.
And folks, you can see this interview on BTC Fiber's YouTube page, as well as BTC Fiber's cable channel 18. So until next time, have a great day. Hey everybody, this is Glenn Edison from Valley Views. We appreciate you watching our shows, and we would like for you to like, share, and follow us on Facebook, as well as like and subscribe to our YouTube page.